ABC, ABC. 1, 2, 3. You good?
All right, thank you. Ooh, that's crisp. I was in Michigan yesterday, and then we had our version of this rally there. And then there's also one in the afternoon that was another organization, but they had some technical issues where the microphone was wireless. So it might have been because I have like a Bluetooth watch on me, and it just kept cutting in and out. But it's just crisp right now. It's just coming right through. So thank you both for setting the equipment up too. This is good quality. Let's give a round of applause for all the equipment set up and getting all the overhead out of the way. As stated before, my name is Bree. Pronouns are she/her. I am the the founder and executive director of the nonprofit that coordinated this. We're Trans Unity Coalition, and I don't want to do too much plugging in about it like right now because we're here for Transgender Day Visibility, and that's the important purpose for gathering. And if anyone does want to talk about our nonprofit, we'll still be around. We're definitely interested in talking about that, but that shouldn't really be the focal point of this. This is actually all of you and all of us. So thank you all for showing up and being here. And one thing extra about our organization, though, in addition here to Ohio, we do have 5 other states that we have also helped organize the TDOV rallies. Like I mentioned a second ago, I was just in Michigan yesterday. In total at the state capitol, there were like several hundred people that showed up, and they were all ready to be visible, ready to be loud, ready to be celebrating that trans joy from within. And it was really great to see our Michigan siblings up there showing up. And likewise, not right now literally, but today we're also in North Carolina, we're in Texas, we're in California, we're in Illinois, and that is just us. There are so many other states where there are all these other organizations and advocacy groups and people who are meeting, whether it's at their state capitals or their city halls or really anywhere. And it's really great to see the community coming out right now, especially when it's only barely been 2 months after the inauguration, and we all understand what that feels like and what that means. But again, the focus of today is us, and it isn't on these scary evil people who don't care as much about us. So that's a conversation for another time. I was gonna try to just point it a little bit more. Kind of like that. Okay, cool. I see a few more people here too. Welcome. I will say that if you're here for the the anti DEI bill SB1, I think that's a different set of people. We're actually here for Trans Day of Visibility. Likewise, thank you so much. Just wanted to point that out because I do know some people have been checking. And these are also all very important issues too. So we don't mean to, just steal the show. But yeah, America definitely has a lot of maintenance and aftercare needs right now. So we do what we can. We're only human. There's only so much time and so much mental health energy that we can dedicate to a single thing at a time. But thank you for sticking around. I do have a speech that I wrote. It's probably 10 to 15 minutes. So if you can stand my voice and my charm, then thank you. But it begins a little bit like this. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It means everything to stand here together. Trans people, non-binary people, allies, friends, and chosen family. We're here for a reason, and that reason is simple. We refuse to be erased. We refuse to be intimidated. And we absolutely refuse to stay silent about the constant attacks on our lives and our dignity. Our identity, whether trans, non-binary, or any other nuanced shade on the spectrum of gender, are deeply, deeply personal. In fact, at times I find it easiest to compare a deeply held belief such as this, the belief of one's own gender identity, tantamount to faith itself. It's not something that can be casually changed because someone else disapproves. It is a foundational part of who we are. And just like any belief that forms from the very core of our existence, it is ours and ours alone. It is no one else's place to define it or to deny it. Yet despite how personal and intrinsic our identities are, these basic truths have been swept up into a vicious political storm, weaponized in legislation and public rhetoric in an attempt to cast us aside. But I want to bring the focus back on where it belongs. Not on them, but on us. Today, this rally is about who we are and what we stand for. We stand for love. We stand for authenticity. We stand for each other. And we stand for a future where our children and their children won't have to face the hateful discourse that tries to paint them as anything less than equal to anyone else. We also need to recognize that there are urgent legislative battles happening all around us, not just in Ohio alone, but in the rest of the country and in the rest of the world. Every day we see attempts to whittle away our rights, access to healthcare, accurate documentation to reflect our true identities, even just the right to show up in a public space without fear of being harassed or turned away. These fights are real. They are happening right now in 2025. The only way we can effectively push back is by recognizing the power in our shared voices, in our presence, in our votes, in our solidarity. But let's be clear. It is entirely too easy to slip into despair when confronted with this barrage of legislation and hate. We might find ourselves thinking, what difference can I make? Am I even being heard? Are my efforts really doing anything in the bigger picture? And that is exactly what those who oppose us want us to feel. They thrive on the hope that we will give up, that we'll stay home, that we'll say, I can't do this anymore. And that's not going to happen here. Not today. We are rising up, committed to building ourselves stronger in spirit, strategy, network, and camaraderie. Now, to all my beloved trans and non-binary siblings, of all colors, of all capabilities, of all shapes, neurotypes, ages young and old, of all traumas, of all faiths, and of all lived experiences. To you all I say, that this movement is yours. You have the right to be angry and to be hurt, but never forget your right to joy, your pursuit of happiness, to find moments of celebration in the midst of adversity, and to keep showing up. Because when we proudly decide to exist in the public eye, we disrupt every storyline that says we should be ashamed of ourselves or invisible. We prove that we are not going anywhere. And to our allies, those of you here, those of you watching, those of you there yesterday, those of you there tomorrow, your presence is a profound statement. You might not know how powerful it is for trans and non-binary people to see and hear those who do not share our identity. Those who are still, despite that, shoulder to shoulder with us saying, you're seen, you're valued, I'm fighting for you too. That is the difference between isolation and solidarity. Whether you're a family member who drives a trans kid to a doctor's appointment, a teacher who makes sure your classroom is inclusive, or a friend who stands up to hateful remarks, your actions ripple outward, creating real change far beyond what you may now realize. And we need you. So let's talk about how we can keep forging ahead, even when the political climate feels like a never-ending storm. The first key is understanding that we both need short-term and long-term strategies. The time to act is right now, because these legislative efforts to push us back into the shadows are happening every day as we speak. And yet, the journey toward true equality spans generations. We are building a movement that must weather ups and downs, wins, losses, moments of triumph, moments of heartbreak. Every single exercise of our voice, voting, protesting, speaking up to neighbors, helps shape a world that the next generation will inherit. The actions that you choose to make today, right here, in this lifetime, while you are still around, those actions are the fibers of tomorrow, which make up the cosmic rope which binds us all together. It's tempting at a rally like this to simply say, charge your phones, bombard your representatives with phone calls right now. Send them angry emails. And that's it. And yes, direct engagement with our elected officials remains absolutely critical. But I also want to remind us all that constant activation can be incredibly draining. Physically, mentally, and emotionally, it is exhausting. It is okay to step back and breathe, to find moments of peace. And as I like to say, to come back replenished for the next battle. Because if you burn yourselves out today, we will risk having nothing left to give tomorrow. So here's the formula for that. Attend rallies, demonstrations, protests, but do not burn yourself out. You must be refreshed to return to battle. Support the LGBTQ+ and trans organizations that you feel you most strongly identify with. And engage with them. Cheer them on. Always remember that they are people too. They will exhaust themselves without your encouragement and without your support. Do call out your elected officials when they ignore or hurt you. The best way to make them pay attention is by showing them our growth, our passion, the conviction through our vote. But you must maintain an open dialogue, lest they only hear from the antithetical. We must be part of that conversation, even when it feels daunting. I also want to deliver a layer of reassurance. It's okay if you don't do everything. Sometimes activism is direct. Marching in the streets, lobbying with your representatives. Other times, it is the quiet work of taking care of your own emotional well-being or supporting a friend going through a crisis. We need both. The trans movement needs that synergy. People out front, mobilizing, but we also need others working quietly behind the scenes, building connections, and offering each other nourishment, kindness, solidarity. Alongside that, it is vital that we pay attention to what's happening in legislative sessions. Even if you can't name every single bill introduced in your state or every last detail of how local politics works, keep an eye on the big things. Find trusted sources. Whether it's a local advocacy group or a national trans rights organizations, follow their updates. Don't shy away because it seems complicated or draining. If we aren't involved, legislation will slowly chip away at our rights without that widespread knowledge or resistance. Awareness, even in small doses, is a powerful thing, especially when we share that knowledge with others. And remember that many Americans right now, of all genders and all backgrounds, are being caught in the crossfire of these political power plays. When one group's rights are reduced, it opens the door for the next group to face similar oppression. We have a responsibility, not just to ourselves or each other, but to the broader cause of justice, to remain vigilant, proactive, and united. I also want to stress that just because we're focusing on our own empowerment here, that doesn't mean that we are dismissing the harsh realities of the pushback that we face. We all know that the cruelty is the point. Malicious rhetoric, demeaning campaigns, the attempts to paint us as threats or problems. But as I said, that's not what this day is about. This day is about us. A day for trans people and non-binary people to link arms all across the country, literally or symbolically, in person or online, and say that we are worth protecting. We are worth celebrating who we are. And we stand resolute in our desire to keep evolving as a movement, to keep forging ahead. So let's double down on what we came here to do. 1, we rally to remind ourselves we are not alone. There is tremendous strength in being physically present with each other. In a time when so many voices on TV and social media try to tear us down, seeing a crowd of supporters is a powerful reminder that we do exist and that we matter. 2, we rally to take action. That means showing up, voting, contacting our elected officials, reminding them that we are a force that can't simply be ignored or written out of existence. When hateful rhetoric arises in your local government or school district, speak up. Encourage your neighbors to see through the fear-mongering. Advocate for policies that protect and empower our community. If you need a day off because it's too much, that is perfectly okay. Rest, recharge, come back when you're ready. 3, we rally for the healing that we need. Gender is personal. Being forced to justify our existence day in and day out, at every walk of life, to people whose business it is not, is so exhausting. It can chip away at our self-confidence. It can feed anxiety and depression. It can make everyday life, even the most normal parts of life, feel heavy. Coming together is a form of healing. Sharing experiences, listening to each other, laughing, crying, screaming into the sky beneath the stars. A community that heals together can stand stronger than ever. 4, we rally because the future depends on it. We talk about the now because the now is urgent. Legislation is being pushed right now. Voices are trying to drown us out right now. But we hold the future in our hands. Someday, perhaps even years down the road, a younger trans person will learn about our collective efforts, these gatherings, these rallies, and they'll say, that collective voice made the life that I have now better. And each of us has a role in shaping their legacy. Lastly, I want to close on a note of empowerment. One that reminds each of us that the true power lies within our own decision to care, to speak out, to act. The fact that you are here, the fact that you've chosen to give your time today, your presence, your heart to this rally, testifies to your inherent power. It's easy to feel small in a world that's relentless in its attempt to deny or diminish us. But we are not small. Every one of us is brimming with potential and capacity for change. Our choice to gather here, to be seen and heard, demonstrates that we will not be erased. And that is our choice to make, nobody else's. We will not be erased. Instead, we will spread our passionate activism and our love outward, paying it forward to the next person whose self-doubt or fear is weighing on them. We lift them up. We stand by them. We show them that no one has to go through life alone. We show them that no one else has to suffer alone. And we show them that we will make it through all this together, stronger. We will stand resilient as a clear, undeniable presence in this nation. We fortify each other's courage when we share space, whether physically or online, and say, yes, you are valuable. And if you are under attack, I will link arms with you and defend you to the death. That is solidarity. And that is how we grow more powerful, day by day, person by person, story by story, community by community. So remember, that power to create change, whether it's your own communities, however large or small, in your workplace, however accepting or rejecting, in our halls of government, however clear in support or not, that power to create change starts within each of us, in here. It began the moment that we decided that we do matter, that our voices matter, that us showing up matters, that our own existence matters. And we deserve to shape the laws and norms of a society that we call home. From that inner spark of the soul, it grows louder, growing to the point where they can no longer silence us. For all of you here, thank you for joining me today. To those watching, we feel you here too. If you didn't come today, that's okay. There will be more. We want to thank you for spreading our voices and relaying this torch. If we keep this flame alive, if we commit to recharging ourselves whenever we feel worn down and beaten, if we use our voices and our choices for justice, then we can and we will outlast any wave of hate that comes our way. We've always had that power. So let's own it, let's use it, let's carry it forward together. Stand strong. Stand proud. Stand visible and indivisible. And never forget that we are the proof that hope, resilience, and unity can build a better future for all Americans, especially a future that includes us. Proudly, unapologetically, and not erased, but rather etched permanently into the tales of history. You are seen, and you are loved. And may joy find you on this Transgender Day of Visibility. Thank you. I'm so glad it did not rain today. I believe that we have next as a speaker a lovely human being of ours. Amelia, please come on up. And let's give a warm round of applause to Amelia.
Did you shrink? I feel like you shrunk. Alrighty. Thanks, son. Alright, so this wasn't originally what I had planned on saying, but I feel like after everything that Bree has said just now, I think it's much more appropriate. With today being Trans Day of Visibility, and just the theme that comes with that, as far as making sure that we are seen not just by our communities, but by those outside of our communities, regardless of whether or not they're going to accept us, and what the importance of that is. I guess to start, I'm just going to make this a little bit more personal. I was very lucky to grow up in an incredibly queer environment, which I know is not the case for many queer people, especially here in Ohio. Since moving here, I have been astounded by just the acceptance that I've been able to receive from everybody, and the sense of community that I've been able to find. And all that I have desired to do is to be able to spread that to people across the state. And really, it is just something that pretty much anybody is able to do. I'm 27 years old. I've worked as an EMT. I've worked as like a waiter and a mechanic. I've never had any experience doing anything like this. And then lo and behold, I find myself in DC at the start of March with Bree and the rest of everybody who helped organize our wonderful rally that we had. And it really just reinforces the fact that anybody is able to put in such a small amount of effort, and it makes such a huge difference. Just in terms of, what's the best way to put it? Like, it really just, it takes so little effort. It's just that it seems like such a bigger task than it is because of the amount of hate that we receive specifically. I'm going to say, whether it's from media or from our government right now, but so much of that is founded on lies. And a lot of these things are very easy to correct. People are willing to listen. They're willing to learn. They're willing to accept that we are just regular people. We're just trying to live our lives. We're just trying to go about our daily business. We don't want to hurt anybody. We're not trying to trans their kids. And so much of what the general populace knows about the trans community is so warped. But it really doesn't take much effort to change that perception that people have of us. All that it takes is a couple of words. This is something that I've been able to learn personally very recently. For example, here, I remember we were in GameStop a couple of months ago, and we had the unfortunate experience of having to listen to this horribly transphobic conversation between a sales clerk and a couple of people who were in there trying to buy some stuff. It was all founded on the idea that trans women were going into sports and they were ruining the competitiveness of it, and the amount of just bogus science that people are just willing to put out there because they've heard it on Fox News or they've heard it on whatever their go-to source of information is, and there's no questioning of that. But here's the thing, even with how little research there is that's actually been done in regards to our healthcare and in regards to us as people, there is already the science there to prove that none of these claims are even remotely accurate. This is stuff that we have dealt with before in the 1930s in Germany, in the 1980s here in the US. We will continue to be targeted, but we will continue to be able to stand through that. All that it takes is to take a deep breath, really, and to be willing to stand up to somebody who honestly doesn't have anywhere near as much conviction as you do when it comes to what they're talking about. Because all that they're doing is parroting information that they've heard. They don't actually know anything about it. You do. And that's really what it comes down to. I think that becomes a lot harder to realize how easy that can be in a place like Ohio, for example, just because it's so often that you can find yourself just in the grocery store or in a corner store, or you're pumping gas and you look around and you see a bunch of people that you know, if they clock you, you are not going to be in a safe position. Which is why building that community around you and finding people that you can confide in is so important. But so many of these people really, they don't know. I mean, I feel like so much of the worry that a lot of trans folks face is, I'm not going to say unwarranted, but it's definitely, there is some exaggeration to it. Cis people especially like to very much think that they know what a trans person is and what a trans person looks like. But the only person that knows that is themselves. And there are plenty of cis women that are much more masculine than plenty of trans women. There are plenty of cis men that are much more effeminate than plenty of trans men. So much of that, again, is just unfounded stuff. And yeah, I guess that's really my biggest point, is just that all that it takes is slight corrections to what those around you say. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to push back on it. You don't ever need to put yourself in a dangerous situation. But it is important that when you are able to safely do so, that you try and prevent that misinformation from spreading further. If you hear somebody talking and you can safely, join that conversation and you can say, hey, no, that's not actually correct. Like, here, let me list you the actual statistics or the actual science that's behind what you're talking about. That's all that it takes to really change somebody's mind. Because it's very easy for people to hear us as the problem, and we're an easy scapegoat. But at the end of the day, they really don't, they haven't put much thought into it beyond that. And to change that opinion, you're not changing the opinion of somebody that was born hating us. You're trying to change the opinion of someone that has learned to do so. And just like that can be learned, it can be unlearned. And frankly, I think it can be unlearned a lot easier. Because I would like to think that every human has the capacity for empathy, even if some people like to pretend I think that that's not the case. But yeah, I guess that's kind of it. I'd originally planned for this to be quite a bit more scripted, but I don't know. It's just the kind of thing where, yeah, really at the end of the day, I think that the biggest thing that you can do is just to make sure that you speak out for those around you and that you do your best to support your local community, support your trans friends, support your non-binary friends, support your other queer friends, your black friends, your indigenous friends, people of color of all kinds, because at the end of the day, anybody who is not a cis white man is not benefiting from the current situation that we're in. It doesn't matter who it is. They are going to be targeted next. It's just because it's us right now, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be us. So find your friends, learn who they are, do your best to spread that, do your best to build your own community, and do your best to, when you can anyway, to safely correct bigots and to stand up for yourself and to find that strength and to be willing to show that we are here, we exist, and that we're not going to go anywhere. Trans people have existed since the dawn of humanity. It doesn't matter that we have a bigot in office. He might try and shove us out the door, but it's not going to fucking work. That's all that there is to it. Thank you.
I might have shrunk a little bit. You might be right. And I know you're definitely right. It's not going to work. So thank you so much for coming up and speaking. Right now, I would say that we are welcome to pass this over as an open mic. We generally allow the opportunity for people who would like to come up and share their stories about their experiences, and you are definitely in a safe space to do so. And if anyone would like to come up, there's a few of us here, so we usually have people line up, but I think people could just come up and walk very much. We can kind of tell who is starting to head forward in talking capacity. So such as this lovely person right here. I'm so bad with names, I forgot. Let's give a warm round of applause for Celie.
I definitely have shrunk, apparently. Oh, okay. Hi. Today is my birthday. Not really. I came out 10 years ago as non-binary, and I never thought I'd be here. I think I was supposed to be at the SB one, but hey, I found you guys and you found me. So they're all related. I'm gonna drink some water really quick, everybody. Make sure to stay hydrated. So, in the spirit of everything being related, to any queer kids right now sneaking away to find their own visibility in places that they feel they don't belong, we see you. To all of the queer and trans kids currently in troubled teen industry programs for just trying to be who you are, we see you and we don't forget you. I'm a survivor of the troubled teen industry, and I think it is absolutely horrific that they would rather focus on so many other things than the abuse that is going on here in Ohio of not just queer kids, but kids in general. I came here to talk about indoctrination on the other side, but they think that we're indoctrinating them. They think that we're trying to convert their kids into whatever That's what they're doing. That's what these programs are doing to children right now. And the fact that they'd rather focus on higher ed bans or bathroom bans or any of this ridiculous surface nonsense instead of the egregious abuse where kids die in these places. Last year, Clark Harmon, his case was ruled not guilty the same day that Donald Trump came into office, so his name just faded from cultural conscience in favor of a man in a diaper. Jonah Bevin, the adopted son of Matt Bevin, the former governor of Kentucky, was abandoned in a program in Jamaica by his father. And this industry has gone back to the 30s. I work with kidsoverprofits.org. They are tracking and researching the history and the open programs, and we're working on legislation to try to save the kids in these programs. So today on Trans Day of Visibility, as somebody who's celebrating 10 years of being myself, to everyone who's struggling to get there, to everyone who is facing opposition and honestly incarceration just trying to be who you are, I am not forgetting you. I've been you. You will be me one day. And we are fighting to get you here. We are fighting to get you out. We are fighting to bring joy, because while we mourn the things that we're losing with education and what that really means for Ohio, and the things that we're losing as a community and the people that are disappearing, there are still moments of joy. There are still things to celebrate, even if it's just that, hey, my Magic the Gathering cards came in a couple of days early. There's always something to celebrate. You got to keep your little moments of joy that is part of your act of resistance, your rest. Do not comply in advance. Do not go quietly into that good night. Fight and survive, and we'll find you. And we'll bring you to the community that you belong in. Thank you for giving an opportunity to say that, and celebrate trans joy, everybody.
Celie, thank you so much for sharing. I could hear that all the way from my car. Would anyone else like to come up and say anything? I've seen so many wonderful faces. And sorry, I'm just a little bit out of breath. From all the storytelling. It's powerful stuff. Would you like to come up? Amber, right? Yes. Yes.
Hi, I'm Amber. I'm Amelia's fiance. I just usually hold the mic. I don't get to go in front of it too often. But yeah, so thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for tuning into the stream. This is my second Trans Day of Visibility being out. My first one being out very publicly. So yeah, it's exciting. It's been a crazy year. And yeah, hopefully this is just the beginning of me getting involved in activism. But this isn't the only thing I've done, and I wanted to just real quick kind of give a example of community building and what that looks like and the importance of that. So Amelia was talking about stuff like visibility of trans people in communities and things like that, and I guess I wanted to expand upon that by talking about how community building works, how simple that can be, and how quickly it can really affect people in a very positive way. So my friend Evelyn started this like coffee social thing up in Kent. I think it was in November, maybe December. November, yeah. And it's just once a month. They all meet up at a coffee shop. You know, sometimes we get like 40 people. Sometimes we get like 5. And all she did was print flyers and talk to a barista and said, hey, do you mind if a bunch of people show up at the same time once a month? And it's just a little gesture that really didn't take a whole lot of effort to set up or to make happen. And already, I personally know of one member who has taken the step to starting HRT and coming out to their parents because of confidence gained by talking to people at those meetings. And there's a number of other people who have just made strides by just being able to talk to trans people in person, because there's so much misinformation online. There's so much misrepresented information online about so many trans issues. Really, everything you can find online can be wrong, and everything you find online will probably be wrong, because there's so much info about trans people, so much of this stuff getting updated every day, things changing every day, and it just gets so confusing so fast. And being able to talk to people in person makes such a huge difference. So even if it's just something as simple as printing out a sheet of paper and sticking it on a bulletin board at your local library saying, hey, trans people, text and join this group chat, or something like that. Just finding trans people in your local community and just getting that conversation started between people is such a huge thing. Myself, for example, I mainly found myself on Reddit a lot at first, when I was first questioning and coming out to a couple people and all that. And, you know, obviously the next step is, do I start HRT? And I talked to a couple people online, and they were saying, yeah, you know, your first appointment's going to be really expensive, and it's really expensive, really tough to get started with. You know, there's waiting lists and stuff. And I had the idea that I needed to have $1,000 in cash outside of insurance, and I was going to have a 6 month to a year waiting list and all that stuff. And then finally, months and months later, I just talked to someone in person in Ohio, and it's not that hard. It's a lot simpler than that. And I took that step, but I was delayed for months because of misinformation online. So just talking to people, making sure people don't have the wrong idea about things, even within the community. Because, like, it's really easy to have a good mindset and give wrong information just because of contextual issues and stuff too. So just, yeah, being very active, being very outgoing, and just reaching out, just putting things out there, doing the tiniest thing just to try to do community building can literally save lives, can change lives, can improve lives, make yours or others better. And that's about it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Round of applause for Amber. Thank you so much for sharing. Always be aware of online scams and misinformation. Would anyone else like to come up, say anything? And that's all the time we have today.
I might have to. Is that okay? We good? A little higher? Oh, okay. There we go. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Cool. Hi. I am Kira. I just want to let that sink in for a moment. I am Kira. What a thing. A year ago, that was impossible. A year ago, I would have been so confused by that statement. And yet here I am, with all you lovely people, as Kira. Just this morning, I took the final step and came out at work. Thank you. I've been transitioning for that full year. I'm fortunate enough to work from home, so it was relatively easy to just stay hidden, not be Kira at work. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to hide. I'm not going back. And so here I am. I'm Kira, I'm going to be me, regardless of what anyone else says. I grew up in a very rural part of Ohio. And the sort of place where the town has maybe 1,000 people. There's no diversity at all. You don't see anybody that isn't white and usually Christian. I didn't even know that trans people existed until I was well into my 20s. If I had known that earlier, if I had people that I could see, people that were open and talked about it, I might have had a different outcome. So for myself, I want to be out. I am Kira. But also for everyone else who might be afraid to come out, afraid to be themselves. I am still Kira. I am here to show them, to show everyone that we are here, going to the grocery store and going to the bank and dealing with rent and all of the things that everybody does. We are not
every time I've been to the Ohio Capitol State House, there's always so much sirens in the background. It's like, where's the party at? I'm hearing so many wonderful stories. Would anyone else like to share at all? I'm sensing that might be slowly coming to an end, so this is the one opportunity. What's that Eminem song? The only chance, the shot, you gotta take it, mom's spaghetti, something like that. But anyways, thank you all who, well, it can be very vulnerable to come up and share from deep down, and that's something that it's a real honor being able to go from place to place, capital to capital, different parts of the country, and hear the different stories, because many of these stories are ones which I hear so often that I never thought I would share this. I never thought I would have the opportunity to let this off my chest, or I didn't know I could be here right now. And it's something where that is a testament to that individual growth and one's journey. But to be able to hear it time and time again, it's part of the human experience. And no matter how some may try to divide us or make us want to hide, there's nothing shameful about knowing who you are, and it is human experience, and that's something that it's something that to take that away from people, it really shows the intentions that some have, and that's at a juxtaposition with just us living our lives, being who we are, trying to make it each day, making the best use of our time, putting on a smile as best that we can despite all. And that is something that is life. And I guess I just want to thank you all for sharing is what I'm getting at. So thank you all Round of applause for all of you. Thank you. No, thank you. Which is actually how the next one starts. We thank you for being here today. To see the people, the crowd, to see those of us who are your fellow neighbors, your teachers, students, your librarians, your activists, your friends. Last time I was here, I had the honor of speaking on January 30th. About 20 feet that way, actually. And I saw many people from the local community here, and that also equally was a good honor. And I see some people here who made it again, and thank you all so much for being here. But I mentioned on that day at the start of that demonstration, and the 8 other ones on that same day across the country, I said then that these rallies are not the beginning, and that they are also not the end. And that was a declaration. That was a promise that we will keep fighting, that we will push back against the fear, against that sense of defeat, against those who try to erase us out of existence. I meant it then, and being here again, I still do. To that end, and it is for this reason that we, Trans Unity Coalition, declare that we will be returning again to Washington, D.C. on Saturday, June 14th. And we need you there. What greater month to express our collective pride than Pride Month itself? A month that we can declare that we are proud of who we are, that we are more than just okay with being transgender, but that we are stronger because of it. That all of us here are strong because of the things that make us unique. Gender itself is merely just a word, but understanding one's gender, knowing deep down inside that this is who I am, and having the courage to bring that to the surface, that is the power from within. So I ask, let's embrace that power on June 14th. On a day that can bring us together once more in unity. On a day where we can assert who we are and demand change from those who represent us. On a day that inspires progressive change for the transgender and non-binary community all across America. A day that serves to build awareness of our joy, the joy that we share here today to America. So we ask you to join our community. Whether you are one of us or an ally, please join us on June 14th to make our pride seen. Thank you for listening to the invitation, and thank you all for taking the time out of your days to be here with the rest of us. This is for you. Thank you. And that concludes our day here today. And I genuinely do mean thank you for being here. It is an honor. It is quite special to see people who are amazing human beings. So I deeply thank you for that. Likewise, still going to be sticking around for a while. I know some of us definitely will be. Definitely come say hi, definitely mingle around, definitely Say hello to somebody that you might not have before. Get to learn who they are. And if you feel so kind, share a little bit about yourself. That's how you build community. That's how you make a new friend. And you never know, and sometimes they really might need that. Thank you.